Thank you very much. Madam Chairman, members of the Cabinet of Barbados, members of the family of the Democratic Labour Party, candidates of the Democratic Labour Party, visiting friends, sympathizers, ladies and gentlemen. 5 years ago, I stood up here in Independence Square along with my colleagues, led by my very good friend of many years, now called to higher service, the late David John Howard Thompson. And I added my voice to the chorus of requests that you should give the Democratic Labour Party a chance to administer the affairs of Barbados. When I made that request, you did not know what Thompson's team was capable of doing. I was asking you to walk by faith. We were in opposition for 14 years. We were in the political wilderness. But it is from the wilderness that very often you can see the valleys that need to be exalted, the mountains and hills that need to be brought low, the rough paths that need to be made smooth, and the crooked paths that need to be made straight. So you took us at our word and you elected us 5 years ago. Tonight, I am back here hovered over by the late Right Excellent Errol Walton Barrow to ask you not to walk by faith tonight, for the writer of the book of Hebrews says that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. I'm asking you to walk by sight tonight, because 5 years after you took me at my word and you elected the Democratic Labour Party, we have a record of which we can feel proud. And during this election campaign, which climaxes tonight, you have heard the cases put by both political parties. The Democratic Labour Party's case has been a very simple one, that we came to office at the onset of the deepest recession, the deepest economic and financial crisis the world has seen in 100 years. At the time of its onset, we were not able to determine what would be its depth or what would be its duration. But we had to manage it for 5 long years. And in those 5 years, we have been able to keep Barbados a stable country here in the Caribbean. We have been able to enhance the quality of life of our people. We have been able to shine with a peculiar incandescence here across the world, while other countries far richer and far better resourced have not fared similarly. Is it not true that as I speak to you tonight, the richest country in the world and the most powerful country in the world, the United States of America, is being crushed still by that economic downturn of which I am speaking? And being crushed in such a way that upwards of 40 million Americans are still on food stamps. Being crushed in such a way that nearly 20 million Americans are still unemployed. As I speak to you tonight, is it not true that our former colonial masters, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, is experiencing its third recession? Is it not true that as a result of policies introduced by the conservative regime in England during this recession, that 500,000 public servants lost their jobs? And is it not true that as a result of pressures that bore down on the poor and the defenseless in that great country, that country experienced the worst trade union strike it has seen since 1921? Is it not true that countries like Greece, countries like Italy, countries like Spain and Portugal have experienced crippling difficulties as a result of this unprecedented economic downturn? And here in Barbados, rather than cut back on the services that we have been providing to the people of Barbados because of the prudent management of the Democratic Labour Party, we have been able to provide additional services to the masses of the people of this country. Is that not true? So, our case is that in this very difficult economic environment, we have done as well as could be expected of any government running a small developing country with an open economy. That is our case. And that case accords with the expectations and with the experience of the people who live and move and have their being here in Barbados. That is doing it the Democratic Labour Party way. This government did not sit back and say there is an unprecedented economic downturn, therefore we're going to build no houses. Michael Lashley at the Ministry of Housing and Lands got houses built at 6 Roads, Work Hall, Greens in St. George, Country Park Towers, Church Lodge, Ford Road, French Village, and on I can go. This government did not sit back and say we are going through a serious economic downturn and therefore we cannot afford to defend the workers of Barbados. It was during this very difficult period that Esteban Coup got the minimum wage in Barbados raised. This government did not sit back and say, oh, we are in a crisis, therefore let us wait and see what happens. Stephen Lashley, with iron determination, authorized by the cabinet, pursued a program that has now resulted in single mothers in this country being able to benefit from court assistance in circumstances where they have in effect maintenance orders against the fathers of their children, and those fathers are not, for whatever reasons, paying maintenance. That is what this government was busy doing. John Boyce did not say, oh, we are in difficult times, therefore let the road network go to ruin. Across Barbados, including on Highway 2A, work has been done in this country to improve its arteries wherever they lead. And Don Villinis, as Minister of Health, did not say, crisis too deep, therefore let's leave the St. John Polyclinic where the Barbados Labour Party left it for 14 years. In a few weeks' time, when we are returned to office, that polyclinic will be opened by the Democratic Labour Party. And, of course, his stellar work at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital will long linger in this nation's memory. That is what the Democratic Labour Party in government was doing, while being blocked and obstructed at every turn by a disgruntled and inept collection of contenders for political office. When this crisis was biting, Ronald Jones did not say, I am sorry the children of Barbados have to be left to the wolves. The Blackman Gollop Primary School was built. The Maria Holden Nursery School was built. The Olga Miller Nursery School was built. The Thelma Berry Nursery School was built. And others are coming. St. Ambrose Primary School was also built. That's what was happening in Barbados. And Steve Blackett, Minister of Social Care, Constituency Empowerment and Community Development, did not fold his hands in anguished despair and say, because there's a crisis, we can't do anything. He continued his efforts to strengthen the social safety net, to make sure that the welfare department blocked every hole that would make it possible for the most vulnerable elements in this society to fall through the net, the cracks. That is what was happening. And he was able to get completed for the cabinet a white paper on aging, so that when we are returned to office after tomorrow's election, a clear path is set for policies to be introduced to protect our aged population. They helped to build Barbados during their earning years. And now they are in their yearning years. Steve Blackett has said Barbados has to help build them. And David Estick in the Ministry of Agriculture, he didn't say, big crisis, we don't know when it's going to end, therefore let's wait and see. He is busy transforming the agricultural sector and making sure that we have a sugarcane industry that replaces the now very vulnerable sugar industry we have had since the days of slavery, since 1640 really, when sugar was introduced here in Barbados by a Dutchman called Peter Brouwer. That is what is happening in Barbados. And our lead sector, the tourism sector, has been exquisitely managed by Richard Seeley, Minister of Tourism from February 2008 until tonight. And he took hold of that cabinet position and took hold of the tourism sector. And tonight, as I speak to you, the first time since independence that Barbados has had a white paper introduced to Parliament to chart a way for the tourist industry was through Richard Seeley, the next Member of Parliament for St. Michael South Central. Again, if I go to small business and industry and rural development, Dennis Kelman, the Member of Parliament for St. Lucie until the dissolution of Parliament, did not sit back and say, what's the point of trying? We have a deep crisis. Fund Access has lent more money to small businessmen under Dennis Kelman than it has done under any minister of the Barbados Labour Party, and in a shorter time. And the manufacturing sector has now begun to breathe a new breath of life, as was attested at the last BMX show at the Lloyd Erskine Scientific Center, when Owen Arthur himself said it was the best BMX he had ever attended. Dennis Kelman did that. And there's the international business sector under George Hudson, who is poised to retain his seat in St. James Central. A whole suite of double taxation treaties and tax information agreements where necessary, and bilateral investment treaties. George Hudson was busy doing that. As far as Qatar and Bahrain, we have been signing double taxation treaties under George Hudson. While at the same time, he continues to manage with exemplary efficiency the International Transport Ministry, bedeviled with all the problems with which it is bedeviled, thanks to all the problems, the inherited problems of Liat. So, what is it that we have to be ashamed about tonight? We have come back to you because we can look you in the face on the basis of a record and say to you that we have earned the right to be returned to continue to be the government of Barbados after tomorrow's general election. If, as I've said throughout this campaign, 14 years were enough for the Barbados Labour Party to do bad, 5 years are not enough for the Democratic Labour Party to do good. And that is what this election is about. What has been the case made out against us? That we've managed badly, that the country is on the brink of collapse. It has been, according to Mr. Arthur, on the brink of collapse for the last 5 years. That brink must be very broad because we haven't fallen off yet. But we've been on the brink of collapse in every estimates debate, every budget debate. We are on the cliff, about to fall over. And Barbados is here tonight. And thousands upon thousands of people have come to Independence Square, not only to hear from the Democratic Labour Party, but to celebrate with the Democratic Labour Party the achievements of what has happened in Barbados over the last 5 years. Owen Arthur and Clyde Maskell, day after day, night after night, evincing all kinds of symptoms of pain that Barbados has been doing so well under the Democratic Labour Party in difficult times. They got so bewitched, has the Barbados Labour Party and has Arthur and Maskell, that because they can't curse me, they've now taken to going back to cursing David Thompson, who is dead. Can't deal with the living man, but so they go and deal with the dead man now. Let David rest in peace. He has fought a good fight. He has finished his course and kept the faith. But they've now taken Noel Lynch and Maskell and Arthur and all them to fighting a dead man. That is where the politics of Barbados is tonight. And because they're so intellectually bankrupt, they cannot get anything that they're saying to yield any traction on the basis of which they can make an authentic appeal to the people of Barbados. President Obama of the United States of America had at his disposal over the last 4 years of his first term economists from Harvard University, from Yale University, from Princeton University, from Columbia University, from the University of Chicago, from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and on and on and on I can go. No solutions. David Cameron in London has had available to him economists from Oxford and Cambridge and the London School of Economics. No solutions. And Stephen Harper in Canada has had available to him economists from the University of Toronto and all the other universities in Canada. No solutions. And we have two men here in Barbados who claim that they have the answers to this world's problems so far as this economic downturn is concerned. They see people across the world hurting. In Spain tonight, the unemployment rate is over 25%. And for persons between ages 18 and 30, the unemployment rate is 50%. People hurting. Portugal, which used to have colonies across Africa and a colony here in South America, Brazil, Portugal is now borrowing money from one of its former colonies, Angola. That's how bad things are. And Maskell and Arthur know the answer to this economic downturn. And would you believe that they're so ungracious, so insensitive, that they won't let anybody know? You know, they seem to suffer from something called Schadenfreude. A malicious pleasure in other people's misfortunes. That's what it means. They enjoy seeing people suffering while they walk around with the solutions to all the world's problems in their heads. I know better than that, by the way. They claim that they know. They claim that they have something up their sleeves. But the truth is, all you can find up their sleeves are sweaty armpits. There's nothing else under their sleeves. They are political and intellectual imposters. And that is why they've come up with no solutions to the problems that are now being faced by Barbados, by the Caribbean, or by anywhere else in the world. Their best opportunity to become Nobel laureates, to be the two best known economists in the world, and they're letting that opportunity bypass them. And you know why? Because nobody knows them. As I've said over and over again, they are not known anywhere beyond the Corinage. Nobody knows them. They're not known for anything. But the Democratic Labour Party has done the work it was supposed to do in this very difficult economic environment, and we are proud of our record over the last 5 years here in Barbados. We have every reason to feel proud because we've kept Barbados stable. We've kept our households and our businesses intact. Children continue to go to school as though nothing else is happening in the world. Public servants continue to be employed on the same terms and conditions as they've always known. Public transport continues to run as though nothing has changed. Access to health care, whether through the hospital or through polyclinics, is still available to the people of Barbados without any change. And that is what we've been doing here in Barbados. In the face of the worst economic downturn the world has seen in 100 years. And it does not end there, because we have learned our lessons from this downturn, because work that was supposed to be done in Barbados between 1994 and 2008 was not done. The restructuring of the Barbados economy that should have taken place did not take place, although Owen Arthur had at his disposal more money than any previous government of Barbados has had since the year 1627. He had more money at his disposal than Errol Barrow ever had. He had more money at his disposal than Erskine Sandiford ever had. He had more money at his disposal than David Thompson ever had. He had more money at his disposal than Tom Adams or St. John ever had. Yet, very little to show for it. And the restructuring that should have taken place in this economy has not taken place. That work is now left for the Democratic Labour Party to do. And we are doing it because we have learned our lessons from this downturn. Chris Sinclair will tell you, because he's had to scratch his head, pull out his hair, trying to deal with some of these problems as well, that as a result of the fact that we need 10,000 barrels of oil per day to keep Barbados turning over, and as a result of the fact that the Barbados National Oil Company only produces about 800 to 1,000 of those barrels, that we continue to be dependent, lopsidedly dependent on the importation of oil, oil-based products. And in the year 2010, I think it is, things got so bad when oil prices were spiraling out of control that we had to spend $800 million importing oil. That is not sustainable. And that's why the Democratic Labour Party is restructuring the economy of Barbados by making it less dependent on fossil fuels and a little more dependent on things that we can produce here, renewable sources of energy, making effective use of the sunshine, which we don't have to import. We don't have to import sunshine. We don't import wind either, and we don't import the water around Barbados. And these are going to be our targets for the restructuring of the Barbados economy. A more energy efficient Barbados using renewable energy for the motoring of the Barbados economy and for the solution of the problems of our households and our businesses so far as the cost of energy is concerned. That is what we're doing, and that is why our manifesto accentuates that intention, and that is why we can say to the people of Barbados tonight that we intend over the foreseeable future, and certainly We are embarked upon it already and will continue it over the next 5 years to create a Barbados that is more economically viable. And a Barbados, too, that is more socially balanced. And a Barbados that is more environmentally sound than is low in the Ministry of Energy. I beg your pardon, the Ministry of the Environment is doing his work in that regard. As we move towards the creation of the most advanced green economy in this part of the world here in Barbados. So that is the basis on which I have come to Independence Square tonight with all of my colleagues who are candidates in this election to ask you for a renewal of the mandate you gave us in 2008. We're not asking you to walk by faith tonight. We're asking you to walk by sight because you've seen what we are capable of doing in difficult circumstances. The Barbados Labour Party is not an alternative in these circumstances. For having claimed that we're going through all of these problems and that the country is nearly bankrupt, the Barbados Labour Party is still promising to solve all of the country's problems, although no money is there, according to them. And therefore, a whole suite of unrealistic promises have been made to the country that they cannot possibly keep. And I have a good sense of what I'm saying because Ronald Jones and John Boyce will tell you that when Owen Arthur was saying in the House of Assembly that he was going to give back the CLICO policyholders all of the money owed to them, and I asked him where he was going to get the money from, he said for John Boyce to hear and for Ronald Jones to hear, and certainly for the clerks at the table to hear as well, you are talking about money, but I am interested in votes. He said that. And therefore, he is not to be taken seriously. That is a damaged item being advertised on the shelves of the Barbados Labour Party. Don't buy it. Owen Arthur is not worthy of your trust. The Barbados Labour Party is not worthy of your trust. Keep faith with the Democratic Labour Party that has proved itself over the last 5 years. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've reached that time when I must close. You kept faith with us over the last 5 years, and we kept faith with you. We ask you again, and I ask you again, compassed about as I am by this great cloud of witnesses, to keep faith with us. We have served you well in the past, and we intend to serve you well in the future. Your confidence in the Democratic Labour Party means a lot to us. That's why we say, Dems now, Dems again. Dems now, Dems again. Vote for the Democratic Labour Party tomorrow. Make sure you go to the polls early. Carry along your relatives of voting age. Make sure they're on the list. And vote for the candidate of the Democratic Labour Party in the constituency in which you live. And tomorrow night, around this time, I will be addressing you to say thanks for your confidence again in the Democratic Labour Party, because we would have been returned as the government of Barbados. Go home safely, get some rest, and be up early tomorrow morning to vote for the Democratic Labour Party from 6 until 6. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.